Hi, my name is Butch Antone. I want you to realize that we're going to show you something about clear coatings. Clear coatings are something that's very valuable in the sign industry, and especially for a person that's just getting started in the sign industry, plus those that are professionals and have been in it for a long time. We commonly refer to clear coating of your signage and so on as liquid lamination. Liquid lamination has many applications. Some of the things we're going to do here for you today is we're going to show you how to use a product called Frogjuice. We're going to be freaking out with Frogjuice, yay! And we're going to take this stuff and we're going to put it down onto vinyl substrate. We're going to put it down onto PVC, coroplast. We're going to make surfaces enamel receptive. We're going to use it on Alumilite. We're going to use it on MDO. We're going to use it over lettering enamel. We're going to do so many things you won't believe it. So pay attention, because I don't want you to call me up and say, hey, did you do that? So anyhow, this is for you.
Here, the frogmen set out in search of the elusive frogs used in Frogjuice. These highly trained individuals will not be stopped by weather or any danger. Frogjuice, the totally synthetic clear coat harvested from wild synthetic frogs not found in nature. The graceful slide into the water is interpreted by frogs as, "Hey, it's time to come out and play." With more on the hunt, here is Butch Antone.
All right, we at Super Frogs, sometimes we have to go to great extremes to find the good quality frogs in order to maintain that good quality that we provide you with the Super Frog, with the Frogjuice. And it doesn't make a difference what time of year it is, we have to go after those frogs. And right now we are currently in the process of hunting for some frogs. We're running a little low yet after all this winter, so we got to get a new batch together. And our frogmen are in the water right now. Let's check with them and see what they've got. Hey, there's one. Hey, look at it. Hey, look at it. Oh, my God. Oh. Okay. Got it, guys? Let it go. Hey, let it go. Hey, let it go. All right, hey, get away. Sometimes you gotta beat him into submission. Look, this one's legless. Oh, no. Oh, there it is. So to begin with, the product we're talking about is Frogjuice. It's the 7000 sunscreen clear, as indicated by the old label, but is now commonly referred to as Frogjuice. And Frogjuice is a relative to the automotive synthetic clear finishes. Basically what that means is that when you have a car nowadays, that car has a clear coating on it. And that clear coating is put on after the color. So that's called base color or base coat, clear coat. So they put the base color down, they put the clear coat over the top of that. Now, by doing that, you get maximum durability. Now, one of the most important things about doing or having a clear is to have UV protection in it. The UV protection gives you UV protection against the ultraviolet rays that come down from the sun, and then they cause the colors to depreciate or deteriorate or break down quicker than they normally would under, let's say, not sunshine circumstances or whatever the case might be. So what I have done here is I've created this clear without it being uncatalyzed. What that means is that an automotive clear has to be catalyzed. You add in a hardening agent to the clear agent, and then this, over a period of 2 hours, turns it into something very hard and brittle. And the longer it's on there, the harder it gets. Now the Frogjuice, on the other hand, we've left it uncatalyzed, but it has the same characteristics as an automotive clear, but it takes approximately 30 days for that to reach maximum hardness. This has a flex agent in it, which means it's allowed to flex And it can also be used on, let's say, round surfaces or substrates. It can go into concave surfaces. It can flex and stretch over the top of a rivet on the side of a vehicle. And that's some of the few things that it can be used on. So primarily, the Frogjuice is a multiple-purposed clear coating for many, 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 many different applications. And again, I can't begin to emphasize them all, but I will attempt to give you some of the everyday standard things that you use in your sign shop. To begin with, the Frogjuice dries with a very glossy finish. The glossy finish is very shiny, it's very impervious to water, water beads up on it, and so on and so forth. So for instance, if you were using Frogjuice over digital printing, for instance, and your digital printing is not waterproof, the Frogjuice would give it waterproofness or make it water durable. So that way you could sprinkle water onto it and it would not be a problem. The Frogjuice cannot yellow for the simple fact that it is totally synthetic. In other words, you don't want a clear that's going to yellow on you. Clear coatings will break down all by themselves over a period of time, again because of the UV rays. But what happens is that when they break down, lots of times they will turn yellow. The Frogjuice does not turn yellow. It can't turn yellow because it's totally synthetic. What will basically happen when the Frogjuice breaks down is it'll turn to a white powder and just fall right off. Now, the durability and the length with which that happens is anywhere from 3 to 10 years, depending upon the application and where you're using it. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize to you is that moisture, when applying clear coatings, and I don't care whose it is, whether it be Frogjuice or whatever the case might be, is detrimental to that process. The classic example is if it's misting outside or it's raining outside or you have high humidity or it's foggy, I don't recommend that you apply the Frogjuice outdoors in that particular environment. If you have an overcast day with no rain, no high humidity, and so on, and you have basically just sunshine or other types of conditions, it's perfect and ideal for that. The humidity won't hurt it. What will happen is the humidity will cause it to slow down as far as its drying time is concerned. The normal drying time for the Frogjuice is anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, depending upon the application and the climatic conditions. For instance, if we were in Houston, Texas today, and it had just got done raining and so on and so forth in the early hours of the morning, and at noon the humidity is 85%, when you put this on indoors in an environment with high humidity, it's going to take longer to dry. If you were to take and put this on in Houston in the wintertime, when it's snowing in Minnesota, which is where we are now, by the way, if it was snowing in Minnesota where it's very dry, poof, it dries very quickly as long as it's indoors. But in Houston, Texas in the wintertime, because it's drier and it's nicer there and the sun may be shining, boom, it dries in about 5 minutes. So each one varies according to the application. It's something that you will have to do as an individual to find out what is the best application for yourself in your local environment, and the drying times are dependent upon your environment. So do a test piece. Always do a test piece. One of the things that I recommend about the Frogjuice, if you're going to use this in your shop or your facility, is to go around with a foam brush, and what I mean by a foam brush is a foam brush with a wooden handle. Get the foam brush with a wooden handle, dip it into the Frogjuice, and paint it all over the shop. Paint it on every substrate and every type of material that you use in your shop. For instance, if you use PVC, let's say in this case I use Vericel or Trovacel, I can paint onto that with no problems whatsoever. It sticks like crazy. It's very aggressive. It also makes that surface enamel receptive so that you can hand letter on it should you want to hand letter. It makes it very receptive if you wanted to put down one-shot or chromatic lettering enamels on top of that surface. And then I would also recommend that you go paint it on the woodworking and go paint it onto a piece of paper and go paint it onto a piece of banner material and go paint it on the window and go paint it on the doorknob and paint it on the cat or whatever else you might have in your shop. Paint it on the PVC, the Lumilite, the Trovacel, anything you can get your hands on. The reason being is you'll know exactly what it works on and what it doesn't work on. And by doing that, it makes your life a lot simpler. Now, the Frogjuice primarily is designed to be used directly from the can. And what I mean by that is that I have a can that's open right here. And the Frogjuice is crystal clear, and when you look into it, it'll have a slight yellow tint to it, and the reason for that is we put a brass bottom in it. Because when we used to have the clear bottoms like this, you couldn't tell there was anything in the can. So we put a brass bottom in there. When you look in there, it has a slightly yellow tint to it, and it's very clear, and it's designed to be brushed just the way it is right out of the can. Now, as I said earlier, a foam brush is ideal for brushing. You can brush up to about 12 square feet without any problems whatsoever just using a foam brush. With experience and practice, you can brush up to 24 square feet. But anything beyond that, size-wise, I recommend that you spray it. There are different methods with which you can spray. If you're going to thin this product, thin it with a good quality mineral spirits. And thin it with a mineral spirits of what we call a 30-70 ratio. 30% of mineral spirits or thinner and 70% of the frog juice. And you can use a Prevail sprayer, for instance. A Prevail sprayer is that little can that has the plastic tube on it that you just stick into a cup, and that will allow you to spray it. Or you can buy the aerosol frog juice, just like you see here, and this will also allow you to spray any different substrates and whatever you might want. You'll get approximately 32 square feet of coverage with this with 2 coats using this particular can. Now, if you're going to spray it with something heavier, for instance, I have back here a Binks Model 7 spray gun. And a Binks Model 7 spray gun is one of the standards in the industry for many, 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 many years. And the new spray guns now are all HVLPs. But if you were to use this particular spray gun, for instance, and I were going to spray a surface with this, I would take 30% or 70% of the frog juice, I would take 30% of mineral spirits or thinner, and I would apply the 2 of them together in a separate container, and then I would pour them into the cup. And by that ratio, I'd have a 30-70 ratio. Then I would take this and put a pressure of approximately 55 pounds on it, and then I would physically spray my surface. When you spray left to right, okay, and then turn and go top to bottom. And that way you'll get an extremely good coverage, you'll get 2 good coats, and when you spray like that, you get a fairly wet, nice, super shiny, glossy surface. It's very, very beautiful, and it will give you a lot of UV protection. Now, if you're going to use an HVLP, which HVLP means high volume, low pressure. I said you're going to use 55 pounds with an old Binks Model 7. If you're going to use, let's say, an Iwata LP94, for instance, then you would only use about 8 to 10 pounds of pressure maximum. And one nice thing about an HVLP is that you have no overspray. Basically, if you were to take it and spray it, it lays it down, it uses all the materials, and you actually will get better coverage and go further with an HVLP. But I just happen to have this sitting there for you. You can see it's been used. It's got a little old paint on there from many, many, many years ago. So now, once we've done that, we're going to take this product, let's say, and we're just going to straight brush it. I recommend you brush it directly from the can. If you need to thin it to brush it, thin it about 10% maximum. What that means is you're going to take 10% of mineral spirits and add it to 90% of the clear. And you can measure that out if you're going to do a large quantity of it. Take a 1 ounce paper cup, for instance, 9 ounces of clear, 1 ounce of thinner. And that way you have a 10 to 90% ratio. And that'll allow you to spray on most substrates. A quart of frog juice will cover approximately 100 to 125 square feet. So that means if you're just brushing it and putting it on, 100 to 125 square feet would be the equivalent of about 4 sheets of plywood, to get 4 by 8 sheets of plywood. Now, if you're going to spray it, you're going to get 125 to 200 square feet per quart. And if you're going to use a gallon, that's 350 to 400 square feet per gallon. And then, of course, that will increase if you're going to spray it with an actual spray gun. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the frog juice and we're going to apply it to some different substrates. I'm going to show you a bunch of tricks and things that will help you do things in your shop. Number 1 is to make you move quicker and do unique stuff. Number 2 is you get your clear coating and your protective coating. And the one thing that you have to understand about clear coatings is that clear coatings are a sacrificial coating. And what that means is that something has to be sacrificed for the abuse that it's going to take. So a classic example would be this. If you were to take frog juice and put it on top of vinyl, computer cut vinyl, and let's say you cut the word frog, for instance, out of vinyl, and you put the frog juice on top of that, and then you weed it, and then you apply it to the side of the vehicle, and you put it on your car and you drive around town with it, and that car gets dirty. Well, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to wash that car. Well, if you take a rag and go out there and put water onto it and start scrubbing on the side of it, basically what you're going to do is you're going to be washing the clear first, because you have the car, the vinyl, and then the clear on top of it. Without the clear being on there, basically what you're going to do is you're going to be washing and scrubbing directly onto the vinyl. Without the vinyl on there, you'd be washing directly onto the car. So the clear coating is your sacrificial coating. Now the primary function of the clear coat is to give your custom graphics extra protection in the event that you put it onto a vehicle and it lasts longer. The customer gets more for his money, it lasts longer, makes you look good. It has a lot of advantages.
Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7000. It's the frogs. It works great on all kinds of products. It's great for protecting vinyl. Not that kind of vinyl. Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7000. It's the frogs.
So one of the things that we're going to do now is we're going to show you some of the different substrates and the things that you can do with Frogjuice to make yourself faster, quicker, and more money in your individual sign shop. So to begin with, let's just talk about basic vinyl. I'm moving over here to get this. If you're wondering where I went, I'm right over here. Okay, this is your basic vinyl. What I'm using here is FDC graphic films. This is a 2 mil high performance vinyl that I have on this board. And this particular word says intermediate, this particular word says high performance. What that means exactly is that an intermediate vinyl, of course, is your calendared vinyls. Your high performance vinyl, of course, are your cast vinyls. These are approximately 2 mils thick. If you get into the intermediate, you get anywhere from 3 to 5 mils on the average. What this does is that if you were to decorate these or do something custom with them or something unique with them, you can put extra protection to them. This is a piece of coroplast. Now this coroplast, if you wanted to protect these letters to where they couldn't be picked off very easily, or you wanted to protect this whole sheet and so on and so forth, you could basically go directly to the Frogjuice at this point, and you can paint the Frogjuice directly over the whole thing, because the Frogjuice will bond itself to the vinyl and the coroplast, and it will stick like crazy. Now the coroplast basically is chemically resistant, and it's not designed to have anything put on it, and things don't like to stick to it real well. But as you can see, half of this is now clear coated and half of it is not. And you can tell by the reflection. There you can see it's real shiny, and there it's not quite so shiny, and then all of a sudden we get over here and it's very shiny. So this is the Frogjuice half right here. Okay? Now, some other uses and applications for the Frogjuice, of course, is over custom and specialized films. For instance, these are fluorescent films, and these are your standard fluorescents. FDC has these fluorescent films. Just about everybody has a fluorescent film. There are some films out there that claim longer durability. The primary reason being is that they do have a clear coating already on top of those, right from the manufacturer, but they're also twice as much money. So if we wanted to, we can take and do this, and we've done this in our own shop as a test. You can coat out half of a piece of fluorescent and so on, and I usually recommend you put 2 coats on there, and then set this outside. And over a period of 3 months, you'll be able to tell exactly how long the Frogjuice makes the fluorescent colors last and how much longer they will last. And that also gives you more bang for your buck with the fluorescent vinyls. Now, here's a product down here at the bottom that's commonly referred to as Sign Gold. What we have here is a small engine turn Sign Gold. Sign Gold is basically a PVF, which is a polyvinyl fluoride. And a polyvinyl fluoride is an extremely durable film that is designed to be chemically resistant. It's actually used on the rocker panels of automobiles and cars, and it's made by DuPont. And it's commonly referred to as Tedlar. And Tedlar is a film that is designed to resist just about everything you can imagine. Chemicals, abrasions, stone chips, whatever the case might be. So nothing really sticks to it very well. One of the biggest problems you would have with Sign Gold is, for instance, let's say you take and put Sign Gold on the side of your semi-truck or a race car or your own vehicle or whatever, and then you were to clear over it with an automotive clear. The problem you would have is that the automotive clear will not attach itself to the Sign Gold. It'll just lay on that surface, and then what happens over a period of time is because the automotive clear gets more brittle, it'll snap apart, and physically the letter will fall right off the side of the vehicle. You'll get this big blister, boom, and a big chunk of clear will fall right off. Now the Frogjuice, on the other hand, is the only recommended clear for the Sign Gold. because it does physically attach itself to the surface. Now, if I wanted to get it off the top of that sign gold, I could wash it with lacquer thinner or something like that right now and take it off of there, but the Frogjuice will attach itself to that gold. Now, we're going to do a little demonstration later on with sign gold on the side of a motorcycle gas tank, just to give you an idea of its applications and where you can use it in relation to automotive clears and motorcycle tanks, cars, vehicles, whatever the case might be. Now, other things that the Frogjuice work on, these are all specialty films. These are all custom films. I'm sure you recognize this as a halographic film. Halographic films, of course, are polyesters. And a polyester film has a clear sheet on it, it has a sparklies underneath of that, and then a silver liner underneath that. And basically, these are not designed to last forever outdoors or for a very long time. But if you take the Frogjuice and you put over the top of these like this, and you edge seal it, which means you seal it onto the substrate along the edges like this, and clear coat over the top of it, you will get maximum durability. If you're doing a race car, for instance, and you want that number to stay beautiful all summer long, take the Frogjuice and the foam brush and physically paint that whole number. And by doing that, you will get a durable number that will last all summer long. They can wash the mud off of it and everything else without any problems whatsoever. And it also takes dents very well and hits very well. Now, the next product that we're looking at here is this is a specialty film referred to as an ultrametallic. An ultrametallic is a sparkly film. It's a 2 mil high-performance vinyl all by itself, but what we've learned is that by putting on a coat of Frogjuice over the top of that, we've learned to make it even more sparkly, because anytime you have something that's sparkly and you add clear, you add more depth. And by doing that, it makes it even more sparkly and makes it last forever. You'll easily get 5 to 7 years out of that now with Frogjuice over the top of it. Now, this product right here, this is what they call gold leaf vinyl and so on. And what it is, it's actually a brass type material. And it's a very unique material, but again, if you brush over it and edge seal it onto your substrate or your background, you get much better durability and you get a much better looking job for an overall period of time. Now, this last piece that we have at the bottom here, for instance, this is gold mylar. And gold mylar, of course, is a polyester film again. We also have chrome mylar. We have gold and chrome. We have the brushed. We have all these different mylars. And one of the problems with those is they're highly susceptible to scratching. So for instance, just a second, let me grab my piece of sandpaper here. Now, one of the problems with the gold mylars is if you scratch it, which it scratches very easily, like this, you will get the scratch marks in there, and basically that's ruined. But the unique thing is if you take the Frogjuice now, for instance, and you brush Frogjuice over it, those scratches all disappear. They go away. And so now you have this nice surface again, and the scratches are still there, but as far as them disappearing, the clear fills them in and makes them go away again, which is really nice. Now, one of the things about brushing the Frogjuice that's very important, and I'll show you a technique for brushing that. We'll set this aside now and let it dry, is this. I'm going to go over here and grab a piece of coroplast again. Now, for instance, if I wanted to, this is a piece of yellow coroplast. Excuse me. Now, if I wanted to letter on this with hand lettering enamel, such as one-shots and Createx and so on and so forth, we have a little bit of a problem getting adhesion here. We can't get the paint to stick to this as much as we would like to. So we have two options here. We have two things that we can do. So let me go over here and grab a piece of, let me see here. We got some one-shot here. And let me see here, some more one-shot. Okay, so these are lettering enamels that I have in front of me right now, and these are one-shot. And then, of course, if I had a quill, such as this is a lettering brush, and this is a quill. Now, this brush allows me to hand letter onto this surface. I have two choices here. I can either make this surface, excuse me, enamel receptive by brushing on the Frogjuice. Now, one of the reasons I like the foam brush is for this reason. If I go like this, I get a big puddle of clear on there. Then what I can do is I can brush it all over like this. And then after I've brushed it all over and I've gotten it in even directions, you'll notice that I'm going left to right, top to bottom, in all directions. And then when I'm done doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly, just the weight of the brush, drag it over the top of that. And what that does is that breaks any bubbles and it causes it to flow out. Now this has a flow enhancer in it, and one of the things is that you can see the reflections. There you can see the clear, how shiny it is and so on. So once I've done that, I've made that enamel receptive. I can basically letter on top of that now when it's done, but I'm going to get another piece. Now, here we have the same product. So one of the options that I have now is that I can take my Frogjuice and I can take a lettering enamel such as the One Shot, for instance, and I can take this take my paintbrush, and let me see here. Get a little palette here so you can see how it works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Frogjuice here. I use the One Shot here. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to brush it onto the surface of the coroplast. Now, if I were to take and put this enamel on here just direct like this, the chances are is it's going to stick and so on and so forth, but if you scratch on it, you will scratch it off. It's difficult to make it stick and so on just by itself. But if I take and palette Frogjuice into my lettering enamel and then take and letter onto that surface, now what I've done is I've added the Frogjuice to the lettering enamel, and that makes this surface enamel receptive now by brushing it that way. Or I can take this surface when it's dry and I can physically letter on top of it with the Frogjuice, with the lettering enamel now. I can letter right over the top of it like so. And now I have a surface that will stick like crazy and is totally receptive. So those are a couple of the tricks that you can learn to do if you're going to use the Frogjuice along with the lettering enamels. Now another substrate that is a problem for sign painters and for people that are using paint is PVC. Now in this particular case, I have a piece of Versacells. Okay, this is a Versacells PVC from HPG International. Now, to letter directly on this is difficult to do. But I can take and put the Frogjuice down on here and do the same thing. So I can do this if I want to. And then lightly stroke it again. And what that does is that gives you a nice smooth surface. It starts to flow out. And then when that dries, of course, then I can hand letter on top of it. Or, again, I can go back to my lettering enamels. I can palette it on here. I can get some Frogjuice. I can palette the Frogjuice directly into the paint, and then now I can hand letter on to my surface or my substrate. If I wanted to do this, for instance, on, let's say, Laminators makes a product called Signboard, and Signboard has a vinyl face on it. Well, one of the problems is if you have to paint that vinyl face, the paint doesn't quite want to stick as well as it should. In other words, it'll have a tendency to chip a little bit more. So what I'd recommend on the Signboard is to scuff the face, add the Frogjuice to the lettering enamel at a ratio of 1:6. So that means, let's say, 6 ounces of lettering enamel, 1 ounce of Frogjuice. Put the two of them together, and you can actually go 1:5 if you want to be a little stronger. And then take and roll your surface of your substrate, whether it be this, whether it be coroplast, or whether it be the vinyl face Signboard from Laminators, and then it makes all of them stick chemically. In other words, Chemistry 101 works and makes it stick to those substrates. Also, scuffing it just lightly with sandpaper does not hurt that surface, just to scuff it lightly. And then once you've done that, then of course, you wipe your surface off, get all your dust off of there, and so on, and then you can put down your Frogjuice to your paint and so on at that time, and it will stick like crazy. PVC is a great product to be using in your sign shop. It's something that we use every day. Let me get another piece of it, and I want to show you a trick. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean this surface now, and then I'm going to spray a little pattern or design on there using some Krylon, and then after we've done that, I'll even apply a vinyl letter or a little chunk of vinyl And then after we've done that, we'll clear coat it with Frogjuice.
Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7000. It's the frogs. It's a multi-purpose clear coat that's totally synthetic. Because it's totally synthetic, it will never yellow. And Frogjuice has great UV protection. For those of you who don't know, this is a joke. Avoid contact with eyes, skin, and clothing. Wash thoroughly after handling. Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7000. It's the frogs.
All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take this piece of Versacell, and we're going to take and make into a little decorative sign. And the easiest way to do that, for instance, is we're going to stipple our background up. So let's take a can of Krylon, for instance. And this is the same Krylon that I've used for years and in the other videos, 1 through 4 that are prior to this one. Now, what this is the Krylon has MEK in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to get some good color coming out of here, and we're going to spray the surface of our little piece of PVC here, like this. And then once we've done that, we're going to decorate that. And the way we're going to decorate that, we're going to use a piece of plastic bag here. So on this particular one happens to come from Walmart with that goofy little smile. If there's printing on the bag, turn the bag inside out so that that doesn't stick into your graphic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay this down on top of it like this and just press it into the surface like so. Now, once we've done that, we have this nice little stippled pattern that you can see right here. And this gives us a funky, unique look and so on. A little bit of the yellow comes through, gives us a marbled effect. You can actually go in there and marble a little extra color in there if you want to, or put some veins in there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to let this dry for just a few minutes, and then we'll physically apply some vinyl over the top of it, and then we will clear coat it with Frogjuice. And basically what you do by doing that is you have an outdoor durable product that is completely done. Now, we'll just set this aside for now. Now, once you understand that the Frogjuice's primary function is a clear coating for protective coatings, in other words, protective covering, it gives you durability and everything else for exterior use, indoor use, it doesn't make any difference. Once you understand that, another thing you've got to understand is also you can use it as a designer tool. So for instance, if we take a piece of FDC high performance 2mm vinyl and we want to do a graphic of some kind, we can take the Frogjuice, for instance, and while the Frogjuice is wet, we can go in here and we can just make a graphic of some kind. Obviously you can't see it with the camera and so on, but watch it appear as I spray it with the can of Krylon. As you spray across it and so on, you can see that the image area that I just painted on there starts to show up. And what we call this is we call it ghostwriting. So I made the letter R. Now, as long as the Frogjuice is wet, basically what happens is that it will repel the Krylon as you spray over the top of it. You'll get a pinkish area in here and so on, and whatever color vinyl is underneath will show up in the highlighted areas. Then what you can do, after you've done that, and you've let it dry, and so on, you can take an X-Acto knife and you can cut a graphic out of it by just cutting a glow line or a halo like this around the outside of it. And then, of course, you could apply this to another color or to another substrate, and then you could make yourself a very three-dimensional graphic or a sign just by using some basic Frogjuice and Krylon applications. The nice part about this is that it gives you something to do other than just plain white vinyl. I mean, let's be realistic. We're all bored with cutting plain white vinyl after about 3 days. So once you know that, now we can go in here and we can create these funky graphics with Frogjuice and a little Krylon just in a matter of minutes. Now, I'm working very wet on wet. I don't recommend that you work wet on wet like this and so on, but because I've done this so many times, I know what I can get away with from doing all the shows. But basically what I have now is I have like a letter R. And then once this is dry, I could physically pre-mask it with my Transferite 6592, or I could transfer it with my clear pre-mask, which is 1510, and put it onto another color, cut an outline in a drop shadow, stick it on the side of a vehicle, and make it funky. For instance, let's say that we were going to do a truck line, and the name of the truck line was Ryder Trucks, and you wanted to give them a stylized R. This is the way you could do it. You could take this R, put it on the side of the door, and then you could put Ryder Trucking underneath of it or something like that. It's a very fast and clean way to do that. Now, not only can you do that with vinyl, you can do that with PVC. In other words, using the VersaCell again. Let's go back to the VersaCell and let's clean it a little bit with my Wrap-A-Tac. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little Wrap-A-Tac on there, and then I'm going to clean off any dust or imperfections that might be there, like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find ourselves a, let's see here, what do I got around the shop here? We'll take another piece of this Coroplast, and we're going to create a space-type background, a space scene type thing. What we'll do is we'll just put a little bit of the Frogjuice on here, and then we're just going to tap it like this, and so on. Oops. Now that was a big goober. Well, we'll do it like this then. And then by doing that, what we can do now is we'll spray a little bit of red over the top of it, like that a little bit, and then we'll go to a blue. And we need just a smidgen more red into it. And we have a whole flock of Klingons flying through space. All right? But you see how you can texturize your backgrounds and you can do funky things on them? Now that we've done that background substrate, now we can create our vinyl graphics and place it over the top of it. Let's see how this is doing. Okay, this is the piece that we've done a little bit earlier. And you can see that, yep, this is just about dry right here. So now what we'll do is we'll take and we'll apply some vinyl graphics to that. Now what I've done is I've cut the FDC high performance vinyl here, and I'm going to place it right over the top of the Krylon, which is on the Trovacell or the VersaCell. And then after I've done that, I'm going to lift off my pre-mask, like this. And then what we have now is we have the word Harley. Then I will take the Frogjuice and I will physically brush on a coat of Frogjuice over the whole thing, and that gives me my maximum durability and protection. I like perfection, that's good. And then what it does is it basically puts everything down. It'll dry like this. It'll also kind of graffiti-proof the edges of the vinyl so that you can't go and pick it off. Also, the Frogjuice will act as a graffiti-resistant product in the event that somebody were to aerosol over the top of this or put some graffiti onto it. We could wash it off with the mineral spirits or something to eliminate that. Should we damage the clear, all we got to do is just put on another coat of it and we're done with it. But we won't damage the background. The graffiti spray will not get through the clear to the background. And the nice part is if you do wash it off, or even if you have to wet sand it, you could physically wet sand the Frogjuice. You could just go back and put another coat over the top of it when you're all done. And basically what you get is you get a very nice, glossy, shiny surface that you can see like this. This works very well. Now, let's touch on a few other areas that we can work with in relation to the Frogjuice. Let me clean up my mess here just a little teeny bit. Frogjuice, as I said earlier, will go over any substrate, over any other clear coatings and so on. For instance, if you use it on a clear that's on a car and you brush it on, trust me, it's very, 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 very compatible. If you add a few drops of Frogjuice even to your lettering enamels and so on and pinstripe onto a vehicle, it makes it bite onto that surface like you can't believe. Because basically we're using a base coat, clear coat. And the Frogjuice, as I said earlier, excuse me, is a relative to the synthetic gloss enamels that are used in automotive clears, with the exception of it's uncatalyzed, which means it stays a little bit softer, longer, but it has a flex agent in it, which allows you that durability and flexibility when you're applying it. Now, what I mean by that is, for instance, we have a helmet here. This helmet was done with Createx outerwear. Createx outerwear is basically this product that you see right here. Createx outerwear is a water-based airbrush paint. And basically, what I mean by that, it's a fast-drying product. And again, let me grab another piece of PVC over here. If we take, for instance, a piece of PVC, and we also take a piece of vinyl, just as an example of a couple of the substrates that we could use. So if we take a piece of PVC and we take a piece of vinyl and we take the Createx outerwear, and we put a drop on there like this and a drop on there like that, and then we were to rub that around so the way it would be thinner, which is the way it would look if you airbrushed it, like so. And then we take another color, let's say, and we do the same thing. This is basically what you're doing when you airbrush a helmet or you do a substrate and so on with the Createx airbrush paints. Now, I didn't set up an airbrush, obviously, otherwise this would take all day long, but primarily what we're doing is we're putting down a water-based colored pigmented paint, which is Createx outerwear. The same thing we'd use on these helmets. Now, one of the things that we've learned is that when you do a helmet with Createx outerwear, basically this helmet has to be clear coated to be finished. I don't recommend that you take the Frogjuice and use it as your clear coating over the top of this helmet. It can be done, don't get me wrong. You can spray it over there, put on about 4 or 5 coats, and it'll look just like a piece of glass. But that isn't what I designed it for. But one of the problems you have with Createx outerwear is that in order to handle this, in order to touch it, in order to move it, in order to transport it, in order to spray it with automotive clear, in order to wipe it with pre-cleano, in order to take and wipe off the fingerprints with a tack rag and everything else, you can't do that if it's just the Createx outerwear by itself, because it's highly susceptible to contamination. So what we do is we will airbrush, and then after we airbrushed, we will mist on a little bit of Frogjuice. And you can see that by putting down the Frogjuice, you get a very nice surface, a very nice substrate, and it starts to glow, the colors come alive and everything else. So by putting the Frogjuice over the Createx, and it doesn't need a lot, that pins those colors down. And once it pins those colors down, then I can take it and spray it with my big spray gun and the automotive clear, and then I have me a perfectly beautiful finish. We just recently did a race car with Createx outerwear, the whole body. We bought a gallon of it and we sprayed the whole body and the whole surface. Now, if you look at these, this isn't quite dry here yet. And this isn't dry, but let's just keep rubbing on this a little bit until we get it to dry up. And I could use heat to accelerate this process. And then once that's set up, then I would take and spray with Frogjuice, or I could take and physically brush a coat of Frogjuice over the top of this, which we will come back to this and we will do that. If I forget to do that, let me know, remind me. And the same thing is true with the vinyl. You can see that the colors on the vinyl are just gorgeous. They're very pretty and very beautiful. So what we're going to do now is that when this does actually dry, we'll just spray it or brush it with some Frogjuice, and that gives it maximum protection. Then you can stick it on your vehicle and send it down the road. Now, besides the Createx outerwear, for instance, there are other paints that Frogjuice will work over. For instance, with the advent of the computers, a lot of people have gotten into the sign industry, not knowing how to prep a 4x8 sheet of MDO for a sign. And so what do? They go to Walmart, and they buy a House Beautiful, and they get an exterior house paint. It says acrylic latex on there, so they see that word acrylic, and boy, they automatically assume, boy, that's going to be the cat's meow, and that'll be the best thing going. Unfortunately, This is a great product, and it works extremely well on the houses. There's only one problem. If you use the latex paints on a 4x8 sheet of board, or a plywood, or a background, or substrate, or whatever the case might be, and then you go to apply a vinyl to it, this has an anti-graffiti type surface to it that boils to the surface, kind of like the acrylic part of it will percolate to the surface, plus the moisture content will eliminate your vinyl from sticking to it. So if you want your vinyl to stick down onto a latex-based type surface, all you have to do is take Frogjuice, put it over your latex, just like this, and so on. And once you've put a coat onto your latex, now your vinyl will adhere and stick to that extremely well. You can also spray a little bit of aerosol onto your latex, and that gives your latex a surface for your adhesive to bite onto, because this is a solvent-based product. Now, other paints that you can use it with, for instance, is the Decorative Sign enamel. The Decorative Sign enamel is also a water-based paint, and it's designed for hand lettering and so on. And the thing is that once you hand letter with this and you do stuff with it, basically all you've got to do is you can take the Frogjuice, put it over the top of your Deca, just like this, and again, you have a very tough, durable surface. Plus it adds the UV protection. Some of the Deca colors fade quicker than others, as does the one-shot colors fade quicker than others. So let's say that you painted a surface with the one-shot lettering enamels. The Frogjuice, again, will go over the top of a one-shot lettering enamel or a chromatic lettering enamel, the same way it will over a water-based enamel, like this. So those are a couple of the different kinds of surfaces that you can use on. Let me give you an example of a surface that I've painted with the one-shot lettering enamel that I will brush the Frogjuice on, both the PVC and the one-shot. Hang with me just a second. Got to go over here and get me a paper towel, too. Now, this panel right here, when I painted this PVC, I painted this with a teal, blue-green, one-shot lettering enamel. And when I did that, I added the Frogjuice to the lettering enamel at the ratio of 1:5. Then what that does is the Frogjuice chemically bonds itself to this surface. So when I scratch on here, you can see that I can't really scratch it off. I can scuff the surface, and that's about all I can do, but I can't scratch it off. I mean, I'd have to really gouge it, and if I were doing that, then that means I would be ruining it. But here's the nice part about it. If I want to, I can take now and go in here, put Frogjuice over this lettering enamel, just like this, and over the edge of the PVC, and I can finish this whole panel off if I want to. Oops, there's those marks I got. Oop, look, they just disappeared. Because the Frogjuice will allow me that privilege and make it that so that it fills in those scratch marks and makes it very nice. So, just to re-emphasize, I can use it over one-shot lettering enamel, or I can use it over the Deca water-based paints, or I can use it over the PVC. In other words, I have a long, or many, many different directions that I can go here. And this is a Class A example. And that's already starting to flow out and starting to look like a piece of glass. Looks very nice. Now, I'm going to show you another trick that is common that sign painters and people who do automotive graphics need to know. For instance, I have a motorcycle gas tank back here. It's an old Harley Sportster tank, and basically it's been done in the past and it has a graphic on it and so on. But one of the things that I've done is that I've learned to take and put the base coat color down. Now in this particular case, the base coat color is the black and so on, but it does have a clear coating on it. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sand this. And this is what you would do to the base color of a motorcycle tank or a vehicle or something that you've painted on. Or if you have to put automotive clear onto this tank, which you would, which I would highly recommend, you would sand it like this. Actually, you would wet sand it. You'd use water with it and so on. But just for the sake of demonstration, we're going to do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take and wash it off. Get all that contamination off there and that dust and dirt and so on. And basically what that has done is that has dulled that finish, so there's no more gloss to it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to place like vinyl on top of it. This is the other half of my little piece of Harley that I put on there. But basically, we'll take and we'll put this across here like that. Now, one of the problems that you have when you put vinyl onto a motorcycle gas tank is this. If I were to take and spray the automotive clears over the top of this vinyl after I've applied it to this gas tank, the thinners in the automotive clear will go down in behind the edges of this vinyl, and it will attack the adhesive, causing it to wrinkle and waffle, and it's a major problem. So one of the things you've got to do is you've got to protect that edge from the automotive clears. Well, if I put varnish on there, it's not going to work. If I put an enamel clear on there, it's not going to work. If I put an automotive clear over that, then I'll have the same problem that I'll have if I spray it with the automotive clear. So basically, that's where the Frogjuice comes in. But let's take this one step further. Let's take and put a little piece of sign gold on there. And you remember what I said earlier about sign gold? And that is, oops, that means I lost the I on Harley Davidson. That means that sign gold, as I said earlier, if you put, oh, it's going to go down now, isn't it? If you take and put sign gold down on there and you spray automotive clear directly over the top of this sign gold, one of the problems you're going to have is that this will cause your clear coating to pop, and eventually it'll fall off. The clear coating will. The sign gold will stay there, but the clear coating will pop and fall off. Now, once I have done this, like this, I can take and now clear coat this and protect it with the Frogjuice. So what I will do is I will take some Frogjuice, like this, and I will take and palette it with a quill. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lettering quill. And I will just take and physically put this over the top of this. Got to get my glasses on for this though. And I'm just going to edge seal that onto that tank like this. And what's going to happen now is that will edge seal those letters so that when I spray the automotive clear over the top of it, it will not attack the adhesive on the vinyl. Now, of course, the sign gold, on the other hand, is not a problem because the quality of the adhesive on the sign gold is not going to be affected by the automotive clear. But if you don't put the Frogjuice down over the top of this clear, like this, to give that automotive clear something to bite onto, you're going to have problems with it popping. It's called clear popping, and this will eliminate that problem because the Frogjuice is compatible with your automotive finishes. So it's one of those little tricks that you can do to just save yourself a lot of aggravation. Now, once this is dry, what I can do is I can go in there, spray my automotive clear over the whole thing. I can wet sand it, spray some more automotive clear, and then my project is finished. Okay? Now, let's go back to these two pieces here. As I said earlier, this is the Createx outerwear. Excuse me. This is the Createx outerwear. It's dry enough now to where we can put it down. It's kind of pearlescent. It's really kind of pretty. And what we can do now is we can seal coat this just like this down onto the vinyl and onto this PVC, which is Versacell, just like that. And then once that's dry, I could stick that piece of vinyl on the side of your car with that design on there if I wanted to, or I can take this piece of PVC and put some vinyl lettering over the top of it and then re-clear it, and I would have basically the same kind of substrate and surface that I would have if I had done it with actual vinyl that was already that color. So I can create any combination of color that I want just by using the Frogjuice as a protective coating over the Createx outerwear. One of the things with the Createx outerwear is make sure you bump it with heat before you clear coat it with Frogjuice. That will cook the moisture out of it. As I said earlier, moisture can be a problem as far as using clear coatings is concerned. Now, one of the questions a lot of people ask me when they call up is, can Frogjuice be used over wood? And the answer to that question is yes, it can be used over wood. It can be used over raw surfaces and substrates and so on and so forth. It can be used on top of redwood. I don't recommend it for that, but it can be used for that, and you'll get a couple of years or longer of clear coating protection from it. The primary problem with redwood is, number one is if you don't do a densitometry test on it, as far as the moisture content is concerned, then that will affect the way the clear coatings work, whether it be mine or anybody else's. If you totally paint that sign first, then clear coat it with the Frogjuice, you will have absolutely no problems with it. The Frogjuice will last very long and be very, very tough and durable. Excuse me. Now, some of the other areas that Frogjuice works extremely well on is digital printing. For instance, what I have here is I have a bunch of samples of digital print pieces that I will show you the difference in whether they're clear coated or non-clear coated. Now, you visually can't see it through the camera, but one of the things is that it makes the colors pop. So for instance, this is a coated paper, and what I mean by that, it's a coated, this is printed with FlexiSign Pro, amiable technologies. This is printed on the glossy photographic type paper. If you totally want to waterproof this surface, for instance, if we were to take and put water on it, the way it is right now, it's waterproof to a degree, but if that water lays on there, eventually it starts going after the inks, or it will destroy this surface substrate. But if we take and put down aerosol Frogjuice like this, the first thing it does is it makes it super glossy, it makes the colors pop even more, and it makes it extremely durable. So when that's dry now, hell, we can take and rain on this all day long and it won't even phase it. So digital printing, yes, this is the photographic paper. And I don't care whose photographic paper you're using, the polished, enameled, clay-based photographic paper by anybody works extremely well. Now, we have other photographic papers here that we've done testing on. For instance, this is a waterproof vinyl, ABV, with UV inks on top of it, and this is a test strip. And what I've done is you can take these panels, and I will clear coat these, and then what that does is that protects the vinyls that they're put onto. Now, one of the things that you have to understand is that this particular piece of vinyl is already starting to show colors and deterioration in the surface alone, because anytime you print on it with the various types of inks that are available in inkjet printing, what you have is you have a coated surface. And the vinyl and the inks and the substrate are only as good as that coated surface. So what the Frogjuice does is it gives it maximum durability, plus it waterproofs that surface. For instance, I have a piece back here that we did earlier. Now, what this is, and by the way, the Frogjuice will dry flat. Whatever the surface is, if this is a flat surface, it'll dry flat on that surface. Now, what I have here is Hewlett-Packard's heavy coated paper with Hewlett-Packard's UV inks. And basically, I've clear coated this top half. Now, if I take and I put water on there, you can see what isn't coated with the Frogjuice is starting to smear. But this right here is coated with Frogjuice and it's not even phasing it. So basically what the Frogjuice does is it will waterproof that. You can see here where I'm rubbing, and you can see that it's making it go away. Now, this has been clear coated here, and I can rub on this, and nothing's happening. So you can see that it does give it extra protection, plus it gives it UV protection. It doesn't make any difference. You've got to understand this. Digital printing has 80,000 different names. But the thing about digital printing is when it boils right down to it, you have GA inks, you have GO inks, you have dye-based type inks, you have pigmented inks, you have MEK type inks and so on. It all depends upon the substrate that you're putting it down onto.
Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7000. It's the frogs. It's great for protecting your digital graphics. Remember, always do a test piece first. Oh boy. Frogjuice, Sunscreen 7. It's the frogs.
Now, let's just quickly re-emphasize this digital printing thing. As I said earlier, we have GA inks, we have GO inks, and we have the pigmented inks, we have the dye-based inks, and we have all the different kinds of vinyls, and we got Arlon digital print vinyl, we got Capco's digital print vinyl, we got Rexam digital print vinyl, we got all these different kinds. All I can say to you is I don't care what kind it is or what you've got, do a test. Experiment on it. Do a sample test piece. For instance, basically what I have here right now is I have a piece of vinyl that's designed to stick to a surface or substrate that's made by Capco. And if I take this is done with the InCAD NovaJet. If I just take plain water and put it on here and start rubbing around on it, you can see the mess that I'm making by doing this. Now, that's just from putting water on it. So now, if I take a piece of Capco vinyl that has frog juice on one half and nothing on the other half, watch what happens now. First off, when I sprinkle this on there, this side here starts to take on a mess right away, and this side here is totally waterproof. So basically what I'm saying to you is that whether you're using water-based inks or whether you're using dye-based inks, whether you're using GA inks, whether you're using GO inks, you can see for yourself the difference in the two surfaces. And look at my hands. It gives you a classy example of what's going on. So once you understand that, and look at, as soon as I start to wipe these off, whoo, I can wipe on this side, nothing happens. I can wipe on this side, and you can see for yourself what's taking place. So basically, the Frogjuice gives you waterproofing number one on any digital printing. I don't care whose it is or what it is. The thing that it does more than anything else, excuse me, is this. I recommend that you either brush on a coat or you spray the aerosol on like this. And then once you do that, again, you can take and put as much water onto that surface and it's not going to phase it. That's important. The second thing is this. Anybody who does any digital printing whatsoever knows that the digital print industry is not exactly honest about where they're at and where they should be as far as the industry is concerned. We already know that if we digitally print onto this, and I stick this outdoors, that this is going to fade and disappear at a certain ratio or a period of time. And first off, it's not waterproof. So I'd have to waterproof this to stick it outdoors. Now, this is actually printed with a GO ink. A GO ink is an exterior ink. But if I take this and put it outdoors, I'm going to have difficulty. If I frog juice it, stick it outdoors, I will double approximately the lifetime of the inks. So if this faded in 3 months, I'm going to get 6 months. If it fades in a year, I'm going to get 2 years, and so on down the line. It just kind of gives you an idea. Now, here's another example. This is the InCAD Photo Gloss Rexam, okay, graphic type dye-based inks onto a piece of this paper. Now, if I take and rub on this with the Frogjuice, with my finger, I'm sorry, if I rub on this with just water, you can see what happens. If I take the aerosol spray and put over the top of it, again, I achieve maximum durability. I've totally waterproofed that, and I cannot smear it up and mess it like that. And that is very important to know. Now, if you want to go totally exterior and you want maximum durability outdoors, this is a Scotch print decal made by Gregory out of Buhler, Kansas. And this is actually a picture of my frog. Scotch print, graphics, short run, full color decals by Gregory. What this is this is an intermediate type vinyl, digitally printed with a Scotch print system, which is basically a thermal resin type process with a coating onto it. Now this will fade in about 3 years. But if I put a coat of this over the top of it with Frogjuice, put a coat of Frogjuice on top of this, I can get 5 years out of this easily. We have a graphic just like this out in the front yard with Frogjuice on it that is going on 5 years right now. And it's just barely starting to show a little bit of deterioration as far as fading is concerned. As far as the product is concerned, it's just fine. But we edge sealed that frog down and we sealed it very well, and you'll see a picture of that a little bit later. Now, this is another product that's extremely durable and tough. This was done on our Fargo printer. Now the Fargo printer is actually called the Primera. Fargo is no longer owns that name, so now they call it the Primera Impressa printer. But it's still, to me, it's still a Fargo printer. But if you have a Fargo printer, this was done on a Fargo printer, you'll get approximately 3 years life out of this. This is the thermal resin. But if you take and put Frogjuice over the top of this, whether you brush it or whether you spray it, you're going to get extremely tough, durable vinyl that you can use on vehicle graphics, outdoor applications, outdoor signage, or anything else. And unfortunately, when you're in the sign industry, this is something that's very important. When you're in the digital print industry and everything is temporary and short term, that's fine. But my customers won't accept that, so therefore I have to do all my outdoor exterior graphics on vehicles with my thermal resin type printers. Another classic example would be the Gerber Edge. That would give you some more. The Roland Color Camp would be another product that would give you a similar type of results. This is a digitally printed process that we did on our Createx printer and so on. And you can see for yourself there is some deterioration on this side versus on this side. These two pieces were cleared with two separate clears. This was cleared with one of the new water-based clears that's out on the market. This is cleared with Frogjuice. You can see for yourself that the water-based caused the water-based inks to scuff, cause them to check and crack all over. And in this particular case here, the Frogjuice is not affected. Water has not affected this whatsoever. So this is a classic example of why the Frogjuice works extremely well in digital printing. Remember what I said, approximately double the life. So if you're getting 3 years, you'll get 6. If you're getting 2 months, you'll get 4 months. If you're getting 3 days, you'll get 6 days, and so on down the line. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. Obviously, if something that you have is a digital print and it's failing within a 2-day period, boy, that's bad stuff. That's all there is to it. And if you put Frogjuice over it, then it makes it a better product. But unfortunately, even the Frogjuice can't work magic. It cannot fix a bad product. So many times people will call me up and they'll say to me, well, the Frogjuice is coming off. And the first question I have to ask is, when you say the Frogjuice is coming off, does the Frogjuice take the ink with it? And they say, well, yeah, it does. And I said, well, then the Frogjuice is not failing. The ink is failing to the coated surface. And that's one of the things that you have to look for. Now, Frogjuice can also be used on many different applications, like wood, which I've mentioned earlier. It can be used on the PVCs. It can be used on the coroplast. It can be used on the side of semi-trucks, on cars, on planes, on trains, you name it. If you have to edge seal a product onto like an airplane, for instance, on the cockpit, to keep the vinyl from rolling back and coming off, Frogjuice is your product that you'd want to use. It has 1,000 applications. The only way you're going to know which application is go back to what I originally said. And what I originally said is, when you get the Frogjuice into your shop, try it on every substrate in your shop. Everything from the cat to the walls to the whatever, you name it. One of the things that I want to impress upon you is this. I have a banner here. This is a banner that is an ERC banner, and it's made by U.S. Banner Corporation. Now, U.S. Banner makes an ERC. ERC means enamel receptive coating. Now, if you look on a can of Frogjuice, it says right here on this little bitty label, do not use on non-enamel receptive vinyl banners. That means if you do not have an enamel receptive coating, don't use it, period. It's that simple. Because the simple fact is this, the Frogjuice is a solvent base. Vinyl polymers in a cheap banner type of material or a thick banner material, if it's not enamel receptive, have a tendency to react to each other. And basically what happens is you pull or suck the polymers to the surface, making your surface sticky. Once your surface becomes sticky, I got news for you. It's going to stay sticky until you do something to fix it. Now, in this particular case, I put Frogjuice on this, and it's not sticky. But this is an ERC banner from US Banner, and that's the difference. But let's say, for instance, that this did get sticky on me, and it didn't dry. I have one other thing that I could do, and that is this. If you take this particular product, which is called enamel coat, and take enamel coat and brush over the top of the sticky areas with a foam brush, it will cause that to dry, and you'll save the project or the job. So if you're digitally printing on a banner, for instance, and that banner is not ER receptive or enamel receptive, and you put Frogjuice on it and it stays sticky, get the enamel coat, brush a coat on there, and that will cause it to dry. In closing, I would like to show you the green sheet. Whenever you purchase or buy a can of Frogjuice, whether it be aerosol or whether it be the actual quart itself, this is the sheet that you should get with it. The green sheet has all the technical information that you basically need in regards to the Frogjuice. But just to give you an idea, I want to read something to you, the very first line off the top of the green sheet. Frog juice has multiple uses. There are so many things that it has been used on that we can't mention them all. When in doubt, do a test piece. If that doesn't work, then call me. It's that simple.
Butch, does it work on vinyl letters?
Did you do a test piece? Dummy. Anyhow, what I'm trying to emphasize to you is that it says in here many different times, do a test piece. Also, I highly recommend to you, do not do your original graphic until you've tried it on something that is similar. In other words, practice on something first. Don't do it on the actual project. It just makes life a lot easier. And just remember this, that when you're using the aerosol frog juice, there are only 8 frogs per can. We don't use any more frogs than we have to. And again, do a test piece. And with that, I leave you, and I want you to realize that you can get freaky with frog juice, and we'll see you in video number 6. All right, one of the things we do with our digital printing and with the frog juice is we do a lot of testing on it, or at least as much as we can. As I said earlier, we have found that the digital printing is not as durable and tough as we'd like to have it be. Here's an example of some of the pieces we've had up here for a while. For instance, this is a piece of the Capco vinyl that I spoke about earlier, and it's like the Arlon Image Burst vinyl. You can see the vinyl has totally failed, but the frog juice has kept the colors rather pure as far as the actual graphic is concerned. But basically it's a piece of junk. You really can't use it. What we have up here is this is all thermal printed with the Fargo printer, and these are CD covers that we made and so on, and we put frog juice on. Now these are up to a couple of years old. Over here we have another digital print. This is going on approximately 3 years old. This is a thermal resin print. It's got frog juice on it. It has 2 coats here, 3 coats here. They're both about the same. The color intensity is the same. You can rub on this. It's very tough. It's very durable. You can scrub on it without any problems whatsoever. Here's some Hewlett-Packard HP printer paper. This is supposed to be waterproof. Right at this point, from here over is frog juice, and this has been up about 6 to 8 months now. And you can see that the color is still here, but on the part that doesn't have the frog juice, it's almost totally gone. This particular piece, I have no clue. It blew off and blew away, and obviously failed very miserably, and we have no idea what it was, but it was a piece of digital printing. The frog juice on the inks are probably still just fine, but other than that, I couldn't tell you what the situation is. There's one other piece out here in the front that I'd like to have you look at. It's over 5 years old with some frog juice on it, and it's a Scotch print decal, which is normally designed to last 3 years. Follow me. What we have here is this is an original sign that we made over 5 years ago for our own shop. And what's happening is that the actual paint itself is starting to fade. And if I put frog juice on it now, it'll make that paint color come back to life. So it's a good way to refurbish the sign if I need to. You'll notice that the frog at the top of the sign, that's a 3M Scotch print decal that's over 5 years old, outdoors. It has frog juice on it, and the surface on it is just as smooth and shiny as it was the day I put it up there, but the colors have faded just slightly. The rest of the paint, of course, has faded. So this is another classic example of where the frog juice does a very valuable job as far as outdoor use is concerned. Let's just go and take a little tour of the Super Frog frog juice production facility. We are currently in the process of making a batch of frog juice right now and so on. It is a secret facility, and we normally don't let people in there, but we thought it would really be a fun treat for you to come along with us and see us making a current batch of frog juice right now as we speak. What we'll do is we'll go around into the production area and so on and so forth, and you'll see the crew making a current batch right now. We are ISO 10,000 certified, and we maintain the highest quality of production equipment, and we maintain high quality levels as far as our manufacturing process is concerned.
Says here that Super Frog wants ISO certification.
Did the check clear?
Yep.
Then they're approved.
So why don't you follow me, and we'll go in here and you can see them in the process of making a new batch of frog juice. So come on in. How's it going, guys? Are you getting all that green stuff out of them frogs?
Just about got this batch done.
All right, good. That's good.
It's a little more. There we go.
Yeah.
A little fine tuning. Get that UV in there.
One of the things that's important about making frog juice is that we use the correct amount of beer, and it has to be the correct brand name. You'll notice that they're using Miller Lite, but actually that's different beer in those cans. It's a very secret process of making frog juice, and we don't want any people to know exactly what that is.
There she goes! Get it! Oh, I got it! Oh! This is not going to make for a very good batch of juice, that's for sure.